Can you see me now?
Let's see. Quite. So I need to share the turn camera off, maybe.
No, it's. Where's. It's pointing over there. Wait. Seems like your camera turned off somehow.
Hmm. Let's see.
No, no, it's okay.
Is it okay?
I'll just start with this.
Okay. Would you like to just use yours, maybe? Maybe I can.
Just for the. No, just to start off.
Okay.
So we could switch.
All right.
Let's move your phone real fast. Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Los Angeles Java Users Group. This is the July edition of 2014. This month's presentation is Foundations of a Modern IDE, Storm Dolce, speaker Breandan, Considine.
Yes.
Right? Yep. Yeah. As usual, we will follow through with normal meeting announcements, even though we're online. So, first question, are there any announcements to be made? Sure. Okay.
Standard LA study group. We started with the hopefully we'll be starting about phase 3.
About phase?
Earl's going to do
But not really Doug.
we're going to talk to him.
You should do it really Doug. We don't have a presentation next month.
About phase is we're in phase. He's one of the leading guys.
Oh.
Are there any other announcements to be made?
Speaker also wants to speak on like the next one time step up.
Okay.
Where do you meet?
Are there other announcements to be made? No? Is anybody here looking for work? Because this is based on the network as you are, so I want to encourage that. About jobs, maybe you're working at a company that has a job that you provide. No? Okay, so if you're interested in UI, okay, so we'll start the presentation. We have about 2 hours max, and we take a break at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So I will defer this to you.
Thanks, Marco. I'm joined here by LA Jug, the kind folks who are very, very good to have me today. I'm traveling from New Hampshire, where I'm staying here, and I've been here for about a week, and so I thought I'd drop by and do this presentation. It's the first run through, so do stop me if anything gets too boring. If I speak for a while, I can get very boring. So I figure if there's any questions or anything like that, I'm happy to take them. It's more interactive than sort of me talking at you. So in any case, this is the foundations of a modern IDE. And so they say that.
You need to do the screen share.
Okay, is it off again? Oh yeah, I don't know why it does that.
So turning camera off is fine, but make sure to do shared screen share.
Okay, let's try that again.
Yeah, that's right. I'll just switch windows.
Okay. Oh, good stuff. Okay. And to anyone who's joining us online. It's a warm and sunny 70 degrees here in Los Angeles. So wish you were here. We have a nice audience as well. Okay, so they say that lots of software attempts to expand until it can read mail. I think Jamie Zawinski said this. He works at Mozilla, or he used to. He was an engineer there, and I think that's probably true to an extent. And so some software, it's very ambitious, expands until it can read every other program, right? You have, and then we call it an IDE. So I'd like to ask you a question. Just what do you think is your ideal IDE? What do you look for in an IDE? Whether some people say, oh, I want it to write my code for me. Well, but if you have any ideas about what you think an IDE should be.
Understand the frameworks and languages of
Mm-hmm. Yep. Code comprehension, things like this. I think that's a very important thing. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Stays out of your way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I think this is probably one of the main things that sort of drives innovation in the IDE space is that we want to have an IDE that removes the friction to sort of creating our projects. So we don't have any complex configuration or something like this. Most of the plumbing should be out of the outside of our view, and it stays out of our way, and it lets us produce new code. That's I think a pretty fair approximation. I thought about it for a while, and so I think there's some good points there to be had. And so a traditional IDE, you've seen you use these before. If you've used any command line interfaces or something like this, it does some pretty simple things. I think four main things you can find in any IDE that you look at. It helps you read your code. It helps you write code with assistance and things like this. And it analyzes your code for any kind of errors or defects that it may have, static analysis, things like this. And it builds your code from scratch. So you don't want to have to write the very low-level compilation commands to the command line. It does all this for us. It just sort of stays out of the way. And I think these are four things you can find in pretty much any IDE. And so today's IDE has all these other things conflated inside. You see plugins and from everything from profilers to emulators, device emulators, and it's all sort of bundled inside your IDE. There's a wide array of cloud-enabled IDEs now. Today, it's becoming more and more popular to write your code for the cloud on the cloud. As we've seen in Google I/O last week, there's a whole bunch of developer tools for that, and I think the situation is really quite good. You have a lot of innovation in the IDE space, and you have a lot of great tools to help you do that. But if we want to go back to the origins of an IDE to find out what really does an IDE need to give you, and so I think we touched upon some of these points. It minimizes the configuration that you need to do to set up your project, and it provides some kind of some framework outside of your to help you do your tasks with as little friction as possible. So you write your code, and so in a way you can think of an IDE as kind of like those icebreakers that break through the waters in the Antarctic, right? And so the ships that follow through have a very easy way of going past us. And so a lot of us developers have a lot of these tedious tasks that we do every and a lot of it is scaffolding and configuration and things like this, right? What we really want to be doing is to be writing new code. And so this is a very, I think, fundamental thing when you have an IDE, is that it does that, and it allows you to focus on on writing new code. And so you can accelerate your feedback cycle by doing that. By giving you feedback early of the mistakes that you make, and clearing the way for you to write new code on top of that, then I think it's valuable in a number of ways. It not only saves you time in the short term by telling you, instead you don't have to go on a wild bug chase later on, but also it trains you to write better code in the future. So as you're writing code, you get immediate feedback. I think this is important as well. Okay, and finally, it assembles and deploys complex applications. We have lots of application frameworks around us that we want to use, and they're often difficult to set up and configure. And so this takes away all that for us, and it does it. So I'd like to go on a little climb up this pyramid. And so we'll start at the bottom with lexing, parsing, and this sort of thing, and then we'll sort of move up to languages and grammars. And so as we're going up, we'll sort of gain a little bit of perspective on the landscape around us. And finally, when we get to the top, hopefully we have a good understanding of what you need to build your own IDE if you want to go that route, or to develop your own plugins on top of a popular IDE out there. And I think whether there's plenty of great options, from NetBeans to Eclipse. They're all underlying them is one core functionality, you could say, and this comprises of language agnostic, so it doesn't depend on any language, or these are a set of tools that the IDE uses to understand whatever language that it helps you write. So what are some requirements for a modern IDE? What do you need in order for it to be accepted in the developer community? Well, you need to have a very quick response time. So as you type, the response should be very, very quick. So you have a keystroke to response in under 100 milliseconds. And this is sort of accepted research on usability. If the user goes above that, then he'll start, or she will start to sort of lose interest. And this is interesting as well. So if you have a very long compile debug cycle, then there's a lot of efficiency that's lost there. So you also want to have responsiveness inside the REPL loop, the read eval print loop. So if you have some kind of thing that alongside interactive, then this is really ideal if you're interactively programming. So it can handle arbitrarily large projects very smoothly. So if you have 1 gigabyte to, say, 10 gigabytes of source code, then regardless of that, it should be able to do completions and inspections, things like this, for your local editor very quickly, and hopefully in an acceptable amount of memory in the stack. Okay, and it needs to have a robust parsing framework. So if you think about it, 99% of the time your code is broken. You have you're working towards some ideal version, some finished thing, right? And then as you're writing, it's pretty much always broken. The IDE's goal, the point of the IDE, is to sort of get you from where you are to where you're going. And finally, it needs to be very stable. So it needs to record any local changes, as well as as well as the traditional version control stuff on top of that. But it needs to be very stable, and especially today. It's unacceptable to have any kind of loss. It should autosave and back up to the cloud if you have it, or something like this, right? Okay, and so this is kind of what you can expect to see from pretty much any IDE that's out there. You have some editors and debugging features, right? And then you have a build system. And maybe it supports different build systems. Maybe it supports Gradle and Maven or something like this, right? And then so on top of the code, on top of your code, you have these two things, a lexer and a parser. And this builds a symbol table of all the identifiers inside your project. So you have so it should do this incrementally as it's going through the project, and it should be fairly responsive as well, like we said earlier. Okay. So so when you think about it, language parsing is one of the first things you need when you need an IDE, right? And so here we have some language parsing frameworks, right? So you have your Java source code, and then so when you parse it into this syntax tree, and it builds a tree, right? And then you have everything on top of that. So all of the tools that the editor and the IDE needs to understand your code, the code comprehension stuff, is all sort of packaged inside the AST. And so once you have the syntax, sorry. Bayesian analysis of things that are quickly out of the set of higher possible completions, and it gives you the most relevant answers. Step back. Can anyone tell me what these editors are? If you can, there's a prize. Well, it's kind of hard to see. I already told you to cover two of these. Yes, four distinct. So
Yes.
yeah.
This modified LJ, something like
Go. Yep. Yeah. So 3 out of 4. That's good. Anyone have a guess what the bottom right is? You can't see it. It's rings. So that's them.
that. Was me.
It's using. So I guess. Well, so it's really plug-in. Yeah. No. That was a trick question. So we all get the prize. What's the plug-in? So it's if you're a thing. We also have cycle where as this does, we just supply the item features to it. So they should be context sensitive, right? They should be aware of the context of it. Right? Type words. We operate that completion. Okay. So, think about it. Has 100, 210, these all have cells. That's satisfied. It turns out that in the general case, this is but there's ways to very useful. So this is so everyone's familiar with the as an cycle, no matter how you try, you can't get back the same node twice. And so it turned out that it's a bit like a tree, but branches come back again. So you can take one of these rings, take it out, spread it out. Okay, so let's try to do that. So we can do this. We can give them dependencies that have no other dependencies. The dependencies that you need to build your project topologically certain. And so you start. So here's the algorithm, right? you start with the nodes that have 0 income in degree is 0, right? And you go to the ones that as you're going through the thing. So as you're going each step, you remove those and all the edges, and then you also as you're going through, you're iteratively moving these from the graph and putting them into a queue to so ideally, what you want is an ordering from the least dependent ones that are standalone, to the most dependent ones at the bottom of the graph. That satisfies this property that there's no properties, right? But as soon as you have dependency, you have everything else before it already met. So the first thing we do is you see these three on top, they have no incoming edges, right? And these aren't, so in case you're wondering why, like, Spring Core depends on the segment or whatever, right? These aren't real. I just kind of made them up as I went, but kind of demonstrate. So the three up here, we'll take these first and put them in the queue. So this thing at the bottom. And we see that, okay, so now we suddenly have some more here that have no incoming edges. So we'll take these again and we'll put them at the bottom of the queue. So we're iteratively doing this as we go along. Great web, we put this at the bottom. Last switch. Again. Jackson. And then a few more. So as we go along, we see that when we're finally done, we have the correct order, right? And so if you go back, you look at, might have been a better way to organize this, but if you think about it, what's the runtime complexity? Did anyone guess what the runtime complexity is? Just not naive, right? We're looking through everything to find the ones that collections, right? Until we have after moving.
N squared.
Yep, no, that's a good guess. So if you're doing it, you have to. So you think about it, like, you can kind of see them because they're no. You're an algorithm, right? You're looking through this thing, right? And you have to look through all of them, finally, right? So each iteration goes through. So can we do better? So there's a way to do it, and that's you maintain just a list of excellent individuals. So you can parse through once, so you go through the entire graph once, you can search it, right? And then have an degree for every single node. Then you put the ones with zero is the degree in the separate little queue, right? And you say, okay. As soon as I remove these ones from the queue, then I'm going to decrement the degree of everything else inside. And if one of them hits 0, then we're added to the queue again. Right? So that achieves linear with respect to the side. You don't have to switch this, which is nice. You have a million of these things. Say, and very large. I don't know why you have it, but and you can do it. So this gives us a little bit of perspective, and so we're at the platform UI level, and so let's think a little bit about a little bit of time. So this was last week. Will I have anyone go? It's some new things. you get to see a lot of features from that back class level. And resolution across information. But this is a new bug. Now you can debug on the cloud, right? So you have your compute engine instance up, and then you have some code on there, and give you some additional data flow as you go through. And I'll show you some of the calls that this is pretty neat. So another example. And this is Eclipse, and uses a um, graphical IDE for these rules, so that they have plugin for so you use from JetBrains.
What was that tool? OS.
It's the cloud debugger. Yeah. I haven't tried it. I hear it's very good. As people are hitting your API from like this, walk through the code as you go. You've seen it. So we have, yeah, yeah. So you can set up to fresh page, and you can see the and this is based on called embedded systems. You can see that as this visual at the bottom, and it's really a projection. So as you're typing, then you can see the result. So this is a fairly especially if you do Breandan, white paper. Right? So you automatically see it as you're typing. So this is the simulator. So it's not really that it's just next screen that can see a different screen types without actually installing them, which is nice. These are just things to have in an IDE because if you're a programmer, then you point back and forth, especially when you're learning the program, this is immediate feedback is really what you need to have in your children. We usually have watered down IDE, and less forms of error. Which is nice. And I think this is a great. Okay, so plugins. I don't know the two plugins, but I think unique and then first is let's talk about that. So if you're not going to there are so many features. Choose a tiny subset of them. I think will have the most value for the users. In fact, voluntary stuff. But I mean, if you think about a regular text-based RPG, you can enumerate the number of features, right? You can say, okay, find string and program, right? So you can enumerate them. So with IDEs, it's uncountable. The set is literally uncountable. You don't have not only every program you have a ton of uses, a ton of this is actually a static analysis. If you're writing a static analyzer, analyze the analyses that you write have to be very high specificity, high sensitivity to kind of like diagnostic tests, right? So you have people with different genomes, right? And then it may, one test may work on someone and may not work on someone else. And so there's a large variability for every single feature. You have to test them for however long that the lifetime of the feature is. And on top of this, all this stuff is evolving, and people are writing their own software, and so they have to get something done. And so you could spend as long as you want analyzing your code for errors and things like that. But eventually, you have to get someone a result, and they have to compile the code, right? So so this last point is a little bit more pedantic. So you try to choose the analyses that are kind of simpler. The best analysis in a static analyzer is simple and reproducible. It occurs in all cases. So this is why we have plugin. And so some of the things that we touched upon are all exposed through an API, usually to the plugin community. And so they help us out in that regard, and implement for their own ideas on top of the framework. And this is also a good. I think it's interesting because it's kind of the last bastion of computing on the PC, right? Sort of moving to the cloud a little bit. But you have all this powerful processing framework, right? And you want to utilize it. And I think, and if you're a developer, then what better way to do it than to write your own plugins and share it with the developer community, so that your headaches, you're solving your own problem, but you're also sharing it with others, and you're saving time in aggregate for everyone else with these things. So the first time I touched about is semantic. This is a language-aware tool that. Have you ever had a particularly bad diff or merge as you're going through a code? Well, why does this happen? Because there's only one character that's changed in the line or something like this. It doesn't really understand your language, right? For years there was nothing that did this. It just when you tried to merge something, it was terrible. It didn't have any understanding of the language, the context, or anything like this. And so there's plugins for IntelliJ, for Eclipse, and for NetBeans, I believe. It works with all three. And any version control system you want. So this is pretty cool. This has been out for about a year, and
it's a plugin.
It's not a plugin, but it's based on kind of the ideas we talked about. So it's built on top of the source, your VCS server. So it does. You'll enable it through the IDE, right? So you'll there's a client-side thing, and then there's but it should work with your choice, whether you use Git or Mercurial or Subversion, any one of those. It should work very well. It's a separate tool, and I think it is like a subscription model, which is interesting. But it's definitely one of the few that actually does a decent merge for large projects, and it understands Java. It understands a few other languages as well. Semantic merge. I believe so. I could. So there's a visual editor as well, but it doesn't. It's not hands off. You still have to do the merging, but it does understand the syntactic structure of the language you're working on. And if you do, there's plenty of examples if you want to check it out online. I can give you the URL if you want.
So you're saying it's version of a Chevron kind of vision that is compiled.
I'm not too sure. But I could. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. but they're starting out, and I think, and I thought I'd give them some. Okay, and then so Chronon is another neat one, which is it does the entire stack at every single step. It records it, and then when your program's done, you can look at it and inspect it, and go back and forward in time with the debugger. And this is also available as a plugin. And you can analyze this for data flow problems or concurrency. If it's a very difficult Heisenbug or something like this, then you put it through Chronon, and you can see all that. This is a little bit similar to I think there's a few like it, but this is one of the, it's packaged with IntelliJ Ultimate, but you can try it out, and I've tried it. It's great. Okay. So now we're at the top, and I'd open it up to any questions you might have.
Are we done, or is this breaking point?
This is
Oh, okay. Questions?
So what are you seeing the most innovation? Like it's where they
push the button after text, and they pass them to life. So I think that's seen a lot of innovation. And I think it's a good question. I think the two areas promising for me is right.
So, a couple months ago, actually, I won a free copy of Delegate. So, I've been trying these two books, and finding it's a little difficult to find things to figure out how do you start the debugger, right? Suggest as far as learning.
Yeah. So I think probably we're very widespread. Someone who switches from paper. There's a bit of learning curve. So I find my best friend is Control-Shift-A. Type in whatever you want to do, and it tells you any action you might get and it's index. But yeah, so this is also something we're trying to improve. In particular, is education.
Education. And even the book, I went and wasted quite a bit of money.
It's also tough when you have none of your peers are using it. So if my
That's interesting.
you could just show us just
Yeah.
it's sort of simple. Actually, a whole lot of people don't know. But when I asked why are they using it over Eclipse, I get the same answer that the vacuum would be, which is it's just better.
Yeah.
And it's not very clear.
Well, I used it.
If I look at the feature comparison, the features are all new.
No, but this one reads your mind.
Yeah,
It's one step away from completing the code.
I actually wanted to slow on this.
Yeah. I would much rather than you showed us some great techniques.
Yeah.
Eclipse is usually playing catch up, and it's reading your mind. This is reading your
I
mind.
think there's it falls into the competitive wars kind of vibe. But I think why use? No, I think there's so Eclipse, yeah. So I had a period when Eclipse was just uh, slow. But, this is kind of it may not be.
I like the Viking movie better.
So this intelligent use less RAM.
I have no idea. Yeah, it really I really think there used to be a problem. They've done a lot of work. Um, both really good. So this is a young coalition that find like features are wrong. Like so for instance the other day when Apple announced actually we support that 2 days right? 2 days flat. And also Java 8 is like 2000. It was like when they first announced the JCP, right?
Yeah, that was just barely came out.
Just barely, yeah. Like that doesn't maybe lots of people probably 70% still on 6 or 7. So it's made up. But I think you'll find ones there's at least good ones and plugins for finding so so the first question was how do I find
I think you should change the name to.
I'll tell you the two reasons that I've seen from my limited understanding. The first one is on Mac. That's what
Basically both.
on Flips. Just ridiculous. There's no solution for it. Secondly, so I am far from the consumer. Started off as a for 6 months. Really like the way it says every so I can back out, split it back. I can back out the whole freaking edit, all of the things where I would something like that, save it. Come back to this screen, you choose what you do that. And you just can't do that. Yeah, but you have to see it. You have to roll past it. And it tells you, like, it just seems like every keystroke I do, it's really so that I find that alone is it happens the moment you hit a keystroke until it's like it's kind of parsing, right? This moment that keystroke by keystroke, it's parsing it to make the selections. But I don't think it's in general with slim hard time. So we can very fine grained as well as
14. So this is pretty good.
Really?
It's not so good. So what we wish we write out some code and then write a test and then yeah, I'm a Java developer, so let's yeah. Control Shift A and then action. So it's
So the guy wanted to learn how to debug. He's like, how do I debug? He said Control Shift A to there. So
settings. Anything that has a label and type of ID, find it. So it's very quick. Back there. Yeah. So do that. So it's a live template, or so it's just a template, right? You create your own custom ones. So let's say you have some that you'd like to automate. You can just bind it to a short string, and so no one will say to you.
So you can type 4i. So they come pre-built, so you understand that. And you type 4i and then you tab, right? Yes. What is
yeah, Alt Enter. That's one of my favorite ones. Alt Enter. You just make a method name and you hit Alt Enter to create the method name for you. Or even variables. It'll launch an inspection right there and the choices of what you should do with it. Yeah.
Notice how when I paste it this time, right names to this one.
He's using VI, so there's a lot more keystrokes than usual. Or even like if you have a void method, you say return something, it'll show smoothly Alt Enter, then it'll change your return type for you. That happens to me all the time. I mean, it looks fine on the presentation, but live it doesn't look as good.
seriously, you have to tell the company that we like tutorials that happen. It's ridiculous. I mean, we're gonna waste years figuring out when there were tutorials out.
I don't know, maybe a Google Plus page and a Facebook page. Maybe I'll do a tip every month at LA Jug. Send me one and I'll do it for them. How about that? Okay, I'll try to do that. I'll try to give a tip every month. Since we're doing the. Does that sound good, Brandon?
Yeah. So my boss is Yeah.
These numbers, so we never be able to do more.
That's kidding. I just moved up. I did something. Well, actually, I tried one something. Don't feel bad. If our documentation is to be very honest, for me, it makes sense. So, we'll go back to the question. Much nicer. The thing is, so so back to that. One point. Years. It's all good. And then yeah, that was, I mean, it was kind of a watershed event. Like 2000, we released our first record. So the second wave, right, but one thing that was good with that, one thing, and all the features we see today, success with that, we still find that much better than the past. If you want to do any kind of experiment,
Is it an M? So in IntelliJ for the debugger, I don't think that works, but for the code it does. You can double click on the code and then expand it from screen. But not all the spots on the IDE do that.
Good question, because you know, and you kind of search Google for documentation. It's not great, right? So there's a whole bunch I know that first thing is check that. Second thing is maybe there's search. And by the way, search the settings. There's something for
Right. Disconnect.
that's it.
Yes.
So you're not running within those units.
Yeah, you could run with it. You could run Tomcat as well and debug it. But it has support for Tomcat as well.
Oh, like
Or you could do a remote.
attaching to a remote, but I'm talking about.
Yes, Tomcat directly. It, as long as you have it set up in your as one of your app servers. Well, you tell it where your app server is, and if it's local or even remote as well, it could attach to it. And they have the same code and everything.
You have to still have a bunch of JMX sessions,
No,
configurations on the top.
no, you don't. But if it's a remote process that's not configured in IDE, then you have to do that. But if you tell it, hey, this is where my Tomcat is deployed. I want to start this web app on it. It'll do that for you and debug it for you.
Now, can you generate clips from
Why would you want it?
so you can make it easier to work with.
To make it to work with an inferior IDE? No.
Well, no,
But okay, you can use a POM file. Use Maven. Yeah.
I just throwing that out there. Well, I don't know if the support behind Excel. I'm a better manager than
Most people who use IntelliJ use Maven to.
Yeah,
They just have a project. They check out the POM is there.
I use Rails and Rails
Well, I don't do Grails, so I can't really answer that accurately. But as a Maven user, I have its support is amazing, actually.
And I don't even know the story of Excel. Excel became, got a boost in popularity when it could read Lotus 1, 2, 3, right? But then when it could write Lotus 1, 2, 3 files, then it became the same.
Yeah, but people use POM, people use Maven for that these days.
Yeah, you can use Maven, you
So,
can use Gradle, you can create a whole separate.
that use case is kind of obsolete.
I have a question about the product. I'm using the community version edition, and I'm wondering for people that went from that up to the ultimate, what feature just blew you away? Is there some big leap?
That's a good question.
Community doesn't support Rails. So the support for Rails. So for me, I'm happy.
According to the Tomcat stuff. The problem is that we don't have these tutorials, so yeah. So our frameworks, so we haven't been blown away yet because
this comparison, right?
unless we, those that have worked with it for 6 or 8 years, we should get but I'll just go over it briefly anyways. The framework support in Ultimate is we support all the major web application frameworks with plugins with the application servers, and so you have all that built in. You can do that with Maven and try to pop your own thing, but I find that the support is very good for play framework. Whatever your application all of it. Second of all, there are a few features. There are features that are exclusive to from debugger, I think, that may be ultimate. And so there's a few things that I'm missing, but most of the stuff which you'll find in is in. So I think, and if you've got any open source tools, then you're more than welcome to buy for license. And it was out to open source developers. And lastly, if you do any integration, I think there's a few plugins
from JetBrains for which again you can find more information on our website at JetBrains.
They have offices in Pittsburgh, Austin.
They're found in the box.
You do everything with VI. I mean Emacs. I mean programmers use Emacs. But, yeah. So I'm going to put 2 things on random data. I did. I change it every time. I use it randomly, so it's random. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so. So come over here and I'll take care of that for you. Can you spell your name?
Oh, Philip Yurchich. No. Yurchp at yahoo.com.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,